So who's in class today? I see so many ghost mode. When we start the class, come on screen. I noticed that many of us couldn't nominate for the class governor role or position because we didn't quite know each other. If we can even just get to see our faces, I'm sure it will give us a little clue as to who we can nominate. Okay, I see more people are coming on screen now. Majority are still off screen. Is my audio clear at all?
Yes.
Very clear, sir. Very clear.
There is no evidence that my audio is clear. The response rate is too low. There's no evidence that my audio is clear at all. Okay. All right, so let's hear your takeaways. Your last class, what was your key takeaway? Who's gonna go first? You can raise your hand using the raise hand tool on Zoom. Okay, I have Daniel up. If I'm going to nominate by myself, I'll nominate anybody who's not even having his video on. I'll call a name like 10 times, and you wake up from wherever you are under your duvet. One of the reasons why you probably don't want to show a video is that you're covering your head inside blanket, pretending to be in class, right? The rule of the class is that on every class day you have a desk and sit down as if you're in a normal office or classroom setting. Okay, that's our standard practice. Daniel, let's hear from you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
You're welcome.
First and foremost, I would like to thank Max Good for the screen got broken last week. I have had copy of almost all my assessments, as you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4 that I haven't typed, and I don't know if there will be grace till Monday for me to be able to type it all over the weekend, because due to the nature of my work, I'm a security operative at Baker Hills here in Ireland. So, and I am very sure that you'll be aware of our duties. Our duties are always rigorous. You understand? There's no really time like.
Okay. If you want a special concession,
there's no laptop for me to. I can't just I can go out. Yes, sir. I actually want a special extension, probably till Monday. I will have gotten everything typed and I will submit the assessments one after the other. And as per my take home. Okay, yeah. Me, I like money, and one thing is, as a facility manager, I want to actually impact on the revenue of my immediate company I'm working for. You understand, as a facility manager, I would actually like a whereby I would be able to contribute at my own niche to the complaint. So one thing I actually took home at the last class was monetizing your sewage and refuse. Seriously. I never thought about that too. I won't lie to you. Seriously, I've never thought about that. That you could. No, I know about recycling. seriously. But I never knew that even your engine oil from your generator, you can monetize it.
Sure,
wow.
Sure. Fantastic.
Seriously, that's actually a very good site. You understand? You could actually monetize it, and at the long run, you could chip it in another aspect of
your operations.
And another thing you want to do entirely, another project, you understand, that you just feel like, or you add it to the organizational pulse or wallet. Seriously, I took that.
That's good. That's good. That's very good. It's important that we, take home some of these practical lessons that we can begin to suggest and apply in our organization. So thank you for that, Dania. Adeola.
Okay, good evening, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. My major take home from the last class was really about the water treatment. He said that the purpose of the water would determine the type of treatment to be given to the water. So it's not a one purpose fits all, like what most people do, but your purpose now determines what kind of treatment will be tailored for that. Yeah, and then I think I got a better understanding of why we have the soakaway pits on the mainland, and that cannot happen. It's not practical on the island.
Very good.
Those were my major takeaway.
Fantastic. Thank you. And in line with that, different purpose of water being different for different treatments, you also need to be conscious of your storage and piping systems to ensure that water for certain purposes don't run through lines for other purposes, right? So it has to be taken into consideration during design. Some people end up taking over a design where the project is built on a single water in and out system, such that the water is treated with so much chlorine and used to wash cars and water the garden, whereas the water is being treated to the drink and potability level before it's passed into the system. But if you have two different points where the water comes from and different lines that takes to the one outside, maybe even to the one in toilets, different from the one that you need to drink or kitchen, that design can be very helpful in conserving our environmental impacts of treating water. Okay. Thank you, Adela. Who's going next? Takeaways. It's a big class. All right, Faith, go ahead. Faith, you can speak here.
Okay, thank you. Nice to have you again. Mine is more like a comment, kind of. So we're taking through sewage treatment plants, water treatment plant, and plumbing. And we went that deep in detail of all that it entails. And I was asking myself, so, okay, this is what Max Maygold is trying to help us to appreciate. Even though some of us don't do this now, I mean, I don't host Pana anymore, I don't host Hammer and what have you, but as a facility manager, by having an in-depth knowledge, like Max Maygold is trying to give us, it will help us to appreciate what others are doing. That's one thing. And then we'll be able to understand. When they give us a quote or when they are explaining things to us, we'll be able to understand fully what is going on.
Exactly. Super.
Yeah.
Super.
So I appreciate that. I would have thought, oh, we're just going to be told, oh, you have The plumbing system, this is how it runs, and that's it. You have that, that's how it runs. No, it was so deep.
Very good.
I'm like, am I going to become a professor at the end of this?
It's good. It's good. And that's why we say we're going to make you masters, not specialists, right? What a master does is understand the problem, understand the solution, understand the components of work that needs to be done, how to supervise the work, right? And how to appraise those who have done the work. That's what a master does. The master is not a hands-on person. And so for you as the master of plumbing from this program, you're not going to hold wrenches and the rest. You're going to make sure that those who are doing the plumbing work, they don't come quoting for carburetors as part of plumbing spares. They don't come asking you to give them caliper oil to repair a piping system, right? So there are a lot of things that when it comes from a technician, you can say, okay, hold that. Where are you getting that from? And he knows you know what you are talking about, right? So that's the whole idea of this training. So thank you for that comment.
Thank you.
Yes, who's going next? Ladies. Kingsley, do you want to say something?
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
My takeaway from the last class, it was an exposure into plumbing, though it's not really my line, but it's what I do on daily basis as far as activity is concerned. So I would say my knowledge based on plumbing was just the peripheral, just the normal joining and all this, but it took us in depth for we to see the stages and the names, the professional names that we did. We just know them as the layman name, as we call them. But now I've been able to see the difference. If we talk of sewage treatment plants, the types and all that. In fact, it took me vast into sewage treatment. So I was even talking with my plumber guy. I said, what do you know about sewage? So
you have to be careful with that, because you can't know too much in a 2-hour program.
So it's really an interactive class. I really appreciate it.
I think the point is clear. Well done. Zichat, Amos, Bamidele, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I just want to appreciate this class, the last lectures. Actually, my take home was that it gives me deeper knowledge on plumbing. I've been in about 2 facilities, and all what the lecturers what he was passing across was giving me, he opened my eyes to see the depth of plumbing aspects, and it makes me understand better with method in which to attend to issues when it comes to plumbing. It talks about the sewage treatment plants, it talks about the water treatment plants, and all of these things are things that I've been seeing in my place of work and the different projects we've handled, and it has really exposed me to know the depth, just as my other colleagues have said also. It broadened my knowledge on this aspect of facilities, how important it is in the operation and maintenance, in the operation of an organization, that if there is no plumbing, the occupants, the tenants, they will not be satisfied with your services. And, with this knowledge, it has given me an advantage over a lot of things that I don't know before, that I now know now.
All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. And for everyone, a class, it's supposed to open your minds, give you more research opportunities, spark your interest so you can go learn more and become better, okay? It's virtually impossible to drill everything to such level of detail in a 3 months program. Your workplace, you need to actually, pick up interest in some of these aspects of facility management and become better as a deliberate drive, okay? So thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen and get into today's class. Okay, Shogo, go ahead. While I'm sharing my screen, I can hear from you.
Okay, everyone. It was a great enlightenment. It was a refresher into the little things about plumbing anyway, because by virtue of what I've been doing over the years, I have a bit of some of the facilitators class, but it gave a better insight, and I was to understand why some things were done. Some things that I normally the mechanical engineers say we want to do this. From the last class to understand why they were doing some of those things. The concept of backwashing, which I explained in class, was something I used to the plumber said we want to backwash.
Looks like the network dropped off. Access should go from there.
Hello?
Okay, yes. You drifted off briefly.
Yeah, my network tripped off. Okay. Yes, also I was trying to say I was able to relate better, with some of the reasons why some things were done based on my experience working with engineers and plumbers. And I also mentioned about the concept of backwashing, which I was able to explain in detail, the concept, the technicalities behind backwashing, the idea of how it only affects the filter pumps, filtration pump, transformers, all those some technical details which I was able to grasp while the facilitator was teaching last class. So I really want to appreciate the facilitator.
Thank you so much. And like I explained during the beginning of the program, we go out of our way to get you the best. So they are very experienced and they'll talk from their hearts, from their depth of experience. Zishat, your hand is up. I thought you weren't going to say anything. Go ahead. Oh, you're muted. Unmute.
Okay, as I got to what I learned that about plumbing in terms of water system, when digging a borehole and the well, you find out that the distance between the borehole, borehole and well, the water, the well cannot the distance between the well and the borehole is different, because you find out that there's a limit that you can go through in digging a well. While digging a borehole, you go far a distance, and the water also determine the level of water that you are going to get. Then in access management, I got to know that in access management that you need to, it also helps the owner to be able to retrieve other things that information in access management, that as a facility manager, you need to be able to know how to retrieve your items, whether they are missing or not, or to be able to know
what they are. Okay.
Yes.
Super. Thank you so much. Well done. I deliberately go pulling the ladies out to speak, especially on topics they tend to make it look like, oh, this is a technical part of this. It's a man's job. There's no man's job in FM. Everything is everybody's job, okay? So if a man can learn everything about plumbing and electrical and roof work and everything, you too should be able to learn it, and then just open your mind and be able to supervise. My best facility managers have been ladies, so let's have it in mind. I'm rooting for all of you ladies in this class, and I'm going all out to make sure I have 100 brand new female FMs in January. So tell your colleagues, tell your friends, tell those who are probably happy doing receptionists, doing supervisor of cleaner, or even doing cleaning job, all those people that wants to do tailoring and say, oh, those are the kind of things that women do. Tell them we are offering a scholarship for women in FM. 100, the first 100 to sign up for that scholarship will be paying just 50% of the tuition. Okay, so we're packaging that product, and we want to create 100 brand new female facility managers for 2023. We can do it. So let's begin the campaign now. Get them ready, okay? I see Olaoye's hand is up and Daniel's hand is up. I'll give each of you 30 seconds each. Olaoye, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, in the last class, I was able to learn because I have been the opportunity to run a water factory before. So I didn't understand the reason why the water, the raw tank, there's a nest that we put a nest of power on the pipe. So actually, in the last class, I was able to learn that it's actually to remove the odor because the water has odor. So that's one of my take home.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Daniel.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I want to ask you, for example, one is called upon to give advice in relation to facility management. For example, a skyscraper building is about to be constructed for aesthetic purposes, looking into consideration of cost and easy management. Which of these is best advisable to use? Buried pipes in the building or the ones that are used externally?
Good question. You answer it for us.
Okay, if I'm to answer for myself, for aesthetics, I'll go with buried pipes. But talking about management, in a situation whereby maybe, when it is being buried inside the building and it bursts, the management aspect for a skyscraper, you have to, before you find out where the problem is, it's going to take longer period.
Yes.
Maybe a damage might have even occurred before one notice. So I want to ask, maybe you are called on phone.
Yes, to advise.
Because I know nowadays, most people always want to go for aesthetics. But regardless, the other way around, it's two sides of the coin.
So the thing is this, if the client, the owner, the user favors more of aesthetics over functionality, right? You will go with the buried, what we call the conduit piping system, right? Now, but the moment you're going for the conduit piping system, you need to work with standard materials and use work methods and processes that gives you guarantee. For example, every pipe that will be buried in a wall must be rated, pressure rated. That's something most of us are not doing. A pipe is pressure rated by its gauge, the material itself, whether it's metal copper, galvanized, whatever, or PVC or UPVC. They have different metals, different materials. And each of these materials have their grade in terms of how thick they are. Plus, they also have jointing mechanism. Some of them have jointing mechanisms that are more secure, that pressure will not lead to them, giving way mid in use, right? And then they also have work methods and processes like how to lay pipes, how to grade bends. If you are bearing, don't do 90-degree bends, for example, do 45-degree bends so that all your piping bends, especially for the drain pipes, don't have a crink, don't have an angle that something can, start settling at a certain point in there, right? And then you must ensure that all your piping network has depressurizers. There are certain valves, pressure valves that are put at different points so that when pressure is building up within the piping system, those valves open to release the pressure. So the design for conduit systems is very complex. People just take any pipe, put glue all over the place, and then cover them inside the wall, right? So that's the thing. If a client says, I want conduits, closed in, the work method needs to be very, very careful. The material choices need to be very careful. It will cost a little more to meet the requirements for conduit piping if you are heavily in favor of aesthetics. But I tell you, most of the homes I stayed abroad, they didn't use conduit piping. They were all surface, right? And they have ways of making those pipes blend in with the building. The architectural features that are put, in certain corners and run at certain levels in the building. It just comes to make the building look nice, like that's how it is. You won't even see the pipes, but they can easily be removed and you will see the pipe, right there. And then there are a lot of manholes and chambers for different types of inspections for all kinds of piping. The design will respond to the preference of the owner, right? The owner says, I want conduit, I want aesthetics as a preference. Fine, I can do that. But these are the conditions, okay? So in this class, you're going to learn something very unique. You're going to also learn that we as facility managers don't necessarily impose preferences on customers. Customers make their own choices after being educated by us on the options available and the implications of every option, right? So once they make their choice, we now say we'll run with, right? So that's the whole idea. You can come back tomorrow and say, oh, that customer wanted conduits piping. It's his fault. Whatever it gets is his headache. Everything's going to leak after a few years because it's his choice. He should have listened to me to put them on the surface, right? No, that's wrong. We need to work according to what the customers preference, but we must work using standards. So that's what we're looking at in today's class. Today is about quality. And I know when we talk about quality, it's easy to relate with quality when it comes to tangible goods, not necessarily services. It's easy to say this Bluetooth headset is a very high quality compared to these other one or this other brand, right? Those kind of things are actually referring to grade. And to be honest with you, grade is not quality. So I can use a nail made out of wood to fasten something. I can use a nail made out of aluminum, tin, zinc, copper, iron, gold, right? Each of these nails are all of different grades. They will fasten and hold different things in place. They will last different times with the different things they are holding. but they are not the same. Even in all of those differences, they are all equally very high quality for the circumstances where they are suited best. So separate it. So don't let anybody deceive you and say, oh, this toilet flush handle, this mop stick or mop bucket is a higher quality. That is not quality. This detergent soap is a higher quality. That's not quality. You are talking about grade. When it comes to tangibles, separate grade from quality. Quality is fitness for purpose. And as soon as you understand the purpose, you know exactly what the best quality is for that purpose, right? So I could use a chair that is made out of paper, for example. That chair was made out of cartons. It can hold me for that event. Like I want to hold a meeting, I made 200 chairs made out of paper. At the end of the event, I go and recycle the chairs, just like paper cups that we have, right? So you cannot say that paper cup is worse in quality than a glass cup. You can't say that. Because the paper cup because the cup you are looking for at that time is for one-time use, a paper cup is actually higher quality compared to a glass cup or a metallic cup for a one-time use purpose, a requirement for a cup. So that is the background I want to give us so that we start separating the two. So when we talk about quality, we are no longer mixing it with grade, okay? We're no longer mixing it with grade. There are quality at every grade. So what then is quality? I'm sure we can all relate with the objectives of today's class. Understand FM service quality, talk about quality improvement tools, look at factors that influence quality, service specification, key performance indicators, and benchmarking. So this is the slide that there are two slides that you must imbibe 100% in this particular training. This is the first one. And the last slide in this training this evening is something you have to internalize, both of them. In this one, we talk about the definition of quality. We try to bring it home and give it some depth and breadth for full understanding. On the surface, you as a facility manager might think I'm delivering good quality facility management. You might think I'm very qualified, I've been well trained, I understand how to do FM. And as such, I'm giving a high quality facility management service. But you can be very, very wrong in that assumption. Very, very wrong. Because you cannot determine whether you are giving high quality in the service delivery. You can't. The only person that can determine quality in service delivery is the receiver of the service, the user. So the user could, perceive. I mean, think about it. Just the perception that this thing is of value is quality. Aesthetic appeal. When you talked about the piping, whether to bury it or to put it on the surface, I said, ask the user, right? It's his call. If he says buried, I want aesthetics, that to him is quality. Environmental friendliness, prompt delivery, user friendliness, even low cost, like get it done the cheapest possible is high quality. And this sometimes comes to FMs like a shock. So are you telling me those my customers who wants cheap things, who don't want to spend money, They're also looking for high quality. I said that cheap things, that cheapest of the cheapest is highest quality. You go for it. That's how you deliver quality to them. So you can't fight the customer's quality definition. After we study today's quality definition, your mindset will be more attuned to the real meaning of quality. So let's take it line by line as defined by IFMA. Quality is a process of confirming customer expectations, establishing performance standards and metrics based on those expectations, measuring the degree to which current products and services meet the standards and metrics, and identifying and implementing improvements to satisfy the standards and metrics. So there are 4 components to this definition. The first component is you confirm customer expectations. If a customer says, provide water in my apartment or connect electricity to my apartment, and you say, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, and you go ahead to do the job, what did you know the customer meant by connect water to my apartment or connect electricity to my apartment? Because the first component of this definition is that you must confirm the customer's expectation. You have to ask questions to break down into measurable metrics. That's the level 2, what the customer is trying to ask you. So provide electricity, for example. It may sound very simple, but if you don't know how much load the customer wants to cover, if you don't know how much fluctuation the customer can accommodate, if you don't know turnaround time, switchover time that it can accommodate, sensitivity of its equipment, if you don't know the earthing requirements, if you don't know, just on and on and on and on, there are so many things to understand about provide electricity that if you don't know, you have not confirmed the customer's expectations. So many of us go about providing services with so much assumption. If you have asked less than 5 questions for every request of your customer, I can assure you 100% of the time, you don't understand what the customer wants. You don't understand, and there's no chance that you can deliver quality when you don't understand what the customer wants. So, but how do you ask these questions? Have a specification outline that you must go with. A specification outline breaks down the different dimensions of what you are trying to deliver. Provide me an air conditioner in the training room. May sound very simple. What kind of air conditioner? Split or window or any other more complex one, depending on how big the training room is. How many people are going to be using that room? How big is that space to give me what kind of options to even provide in the first place? Energy demand of this AC. How much energy does it need to start, and to run? Will it be requiring a remote control or is just an off and on system? Will there be any concern about the color, the size, the shape? If I take my time to put down a small outline or specification requirements for just air conditioning installation, I probably will get up to 20 line items describing and providing options. It is only after a customer have answered and answered and answered and answered will I have a clear picture of what the customer is asking. So never ever assume you understand the customer. Confirm. This is the foundation of quality in service delivery. The moment you understand those expectations, you have confirmed. And by the way, any customer that you take through this process of confirming their requirements, they hardly change their mind midway. They don't give you complications. They are already partially satisfied with the service just because of the professionalism with which you sought their expectations to be clearly detailed. And honestly, if you move from there to develop a service level agreement, we'll talk about that in a bit, right? Where you get the customer to see in black and white that specification you have confirmed for them to either sign or endorse it. You have secured your position as that excellent professional. And so by the time you get to this second aspect of the quality definition, establishing performance standards and metrics based on those expectations, you have already used the tools of specifying breakdown of what the customers is asking using objective measures. For example, everything that you use to describe the customer's expectation must be measurable. Kilowatt hours for load requirements, minutes, for example, for switchover time, voltage range, for example, for fluctuation range, and so on and so forth. There are so many things that you cannot establish exactly what the customer wants using numbers that can be related with. Because when we get to the bottom of this definition, you are going to measure, you're going to compare, right? So you must have certain objective measures that helps define what you understand. So that when it's time to deliver, you know exactly what you are delivering. You measure the degree to which current products and services meet the standards and metrics. So in essence, you do a gap analysis. Now I understand what the customer wants. Where am I in my delivery? What's the difference between what I currently offer and what I now know the customer wants? That's level 3 of quality definition. Because in level 4, I'm going to be trying to close that gap. I'm not trying to get customers to bend their expectations to favor or suit the way I deliver my services. I know some of you who work for demand organizations where you are fellow colleagues with your building users. You tend to come up with policies that define how you want to deliver FM services without asking the users, without getting to know how your services impact the users, to get feedback from them and develop the SLA with them. We end up promulgating, imposing, and just creating standards. And we call them corporate standards. The corporate standards should emanate from the users and the management. Those who have the title of customer to you, they should be the one telling you what you should be working on or delivering. So when you identify and implement improvements, satisfy the standards and metrics, you are closing the gap. You are getting closer to what helps the customer succeed, what provides the solution the customer wants. That's basically quality for you. So in practice, we say a place that is clean is high quality. Okay, we say, oh, these people, they have good processes. It's a high quality environment, right? We say, oh, the staff are so well behaved. They seem to know exactly what to do at the right time. Oh, this is a high quality environment, right? This is how we implement quality in the real world. And then that compliance angle, you cannot say you are working towards a high quality environment when you are not yet complying with regulatory policies, corporate policies, statutory policies or procedures or regulatory requirements, which are the minimum. So in essence, what I'm trying to say here is for you to operate quality at different levels, you have moved above regulatory compliance. Regulatory compliance is the baseline, is the bottom. So if you are still dumping your sewage in the drainage without treatments, for example, or dumping your waste oil in the drainage, or emitting dangerous levels of emissions in the environment, or dumping mercury laden light tubes and stuff into the public waste system. All those non-compliance issues put you below the level of thinking quality. Way below. So think of quality like this. I understand the building code. I implement it. My health and safety practices, my risk plans, and all of those things that helps me comply with the laws of the land, I meet them. It's after I've satisfied them, I now begin to operate at standards above them that I can call quality. Okay? So when somebody talks about quality, first of all, tell yourself, regulatory standards are the minimum. I have to scale regulatory standards first before I start working my way up quality expectations, because the standard of your customer is what you need to apply as quality for that customer. That standard of your customer, whether a company or an individual, cannot be lower than the level of what the law permits. So in essence, you can't even serve a customer who wants delivery below regulatory compliance. Okay, so if a customer tells you something like, you know what, let's not stress this thing. When it's night, just put a pump into the septic tank and pump it into the drainage to save money, right? That customer is trying to pull you below regulatory compliance. If you do that, you can't even claim that because you and the customer are working in conspiracy to break the law, you are serving the customer at high quality, because that is not quality. You comply first, and everything above it is what we describe as quality. Okay. And so we say, do what is right. And I've spent a lot of time trying to explain to you exactly what this quality, do what is right, means from the standpoint of the customer. What the customer wants, how he wants it, when and where, right? But again, you must observe that caveat. Provided is what, how, when, and where does not break the law. Okay? And then you now have standards and best practices. So corporate standards. You know, those days when we're growing up, you hear of certain people do certain things and they say, oh, that's Shell standard. We used to hear of Shell standard. We used to hear of certain companies that do things at a different level, right? We say, oh, that's their standard. I used to work with some technicians, artisans, do things for me at home, and they say, no, that's Mr. Paul's standard, right? You can't do it this way, you can't do it that way when you are there. So you have to prepare yourself. That's his standard. Yes, that's what we're talking about. Standards and best practices is quality as defined by the individual, the organization, professional bodies, and so on and so forth. And at the lowest level of standard is what we call regulatory standard, the level at which you cannot operate below. Okay? And let's be clear on this. Once we have identify what that baseline, bottom line is, everything above it can become subjective and perceptual. A customer can hail you, sing your praises, and virtually worship you for doing the same thing. That when you do it for another customer, the customer will vilify you, persecute you, almost prosecute you, and even hate you. And you'll be like, oh my goodness, this guy is bad. That guy is good. This guy is understanding. This guy is sadist, right? The truth is, the only naive person here is you, the facility manager, trying to create your own quality standard, trying to make your customers conform to your own perception instead of you conforming to their perception of quality. So don't think that there is this empirical measurement for service quality that should apply to all customers. No, 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 absolutely no, that's not possible. And because we have given you this very detailed definition of service quality, your focus now is not just on what you do as a service provider, but what the customer wants or expects as a service user. Because think about it. If a customer expects 70% from you, if you perform up to 69%, the customer will be disappointed. You fell short. If that same customer expects 50% from you, and you perform up to 69%, the same 69%, the same customer will become over-impressed. What am I trying to say? Your performance is dependent, or the rating of your performance is dependent on the expectation of the customer. So instead of you to overly focus on how to get your performance to a certain level that you predetermine by yourself, focus first on understanding and managing the customer's expectation and perception. Again, the caveat is you can't try to manage the customer below regulatory compliance. You can't try to manage the customer to below service level agreement as contracted. And I'm going to throw a little more light on this as we go on, but understand that you are responsible ultimately for how a customer, what a customer expects and what the customer perceives as the quality of your service. You control both if you know what you're doing. So we say try and get this right the first time. Deliver to quality without having to do rework, without having to have complaints, without having to spend too much money and time, because every time you deliver at a cost, even if it's slightly higher than the lowest possible cost, it's no longer quality. Once the specification is set, you deliver precisely at the cost that is the cheapest. That is highest quality. So paying attention to detail to ensure that there are no rework and improving customer satisfaction is how to get things right the first time. So it's a mindset thing. Personal accountability, self-evaluation, and reality check. A passionate desire to learn and improve. Improvement will follow the discovery and application of laws, principles, and best known practices that govern the outcome of a specific behavior. And the universal law of cause and effect determines all process improvement outcomes. Only by improving the inputs to a process can you influence the output or results. This particular statement is very weighty. Many times you think you can make do with what you have and get the best results. Before what you have got to you, it was an output of another process that became an input into your process. If you want to get quality right all the time, you must not only wait to receive that output that becomes your own input, you must pay attention to how that output is produced. I can give a good report at the end of the week to management when all I get from my technicians and cleaning crews and security guards, supervisors, are all crappy reports that don't add up. A client called me once and said, I'm just looking at the reports from this team, and it's showing that a certain equipment did not consume any energy this week. 0 was entered. And as such, the total energy consumed is not tallying with the various disaggregated energy consumed by the different components submitted. Somebody just put numbers in there and try to force it through. So when the team who are doing the logging of this data on a daily basis turned in their readings, you as the FM, what did you do? What due diligence do you do at that point? Sometimes it's even too late for you to go and probe into what the error is. You just manipulate the reports and then you want to push it out because you have to push it out. But to have a high quality end product of that report, you didn't need to wait till the end of the week. You needed to be sure that on a daily basis, morning and evening, the reports, the logs they were taking were being logged in. You were seeing that it was being logged in. If there was going to be any problem on Friday or Thursday, you already know by Tuesday or Wednesday. It doesn't look right. Why is this thing that's running right now not showing any reading here? Ah, okay, sorry, there was a mistake. That gets fixed. So by the time that comes to you to do your weekly report or your monthly report, you have data that you can trust because you paid attention to where it's coming from. So that's why it's important that you improve the inputs to the process so you can influence the outputs. So to get improvements in your quality, you must have painstaking preparation, documented goals and procedures, measured performance, and persistent learning. And part of what we're going to be learning in this class today is how to measure your performance. Many of us just believe in our hearts that we are performing very highly. We are doing so well. I'm doing my best, like the person that runs helter-skelter, trying to impress. If you don't have objective measures, specific things that you are measuring that shows how you are performing relative to benchmark sets, numbers, objective measures set as the customer's expectation, sorry, you're not doing much. So let's look at how to get it right. These are quality principles that we need to learn. First, you must standardize your task to improve the processes. Standardizing task takes away all of that human error that reduces quality. If John does it and Mary comes to do it the next day, the outcome will be the same because John follows the same set of processes that Mary will follow the next day when she does it. Number 2, to improve the performance of the activity, increase the frequency of feedback to those engaged in the activity. The more frequent the feedback, the better the results. Don't say, I don't want to micromanage. And because I don't want to micromanage, I see that a wrong step is being taken. A minor deviation is about to happen. And then I keep quiet. That deviation becomes wider and wider until it becomes too broad at the end result. So, feedback. This is more like course correction. Don't wait until something breaks totally. Don't wait until it becomes a total disaster before you speak up. Number 3, Thomas Monson said, when performance is measured, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. To get quality right, you must have a reporting mechanism. Not just reporting on anyhow. Reporting on measures that can be trended and analyzed. What do I mean? If I have a report, the line items in my report should have an expected trend. Whatever I'm measuring, whatever I'm counting, whatever I'm taking note of as part of performance measurement should either be expected to trend upwards, trend downwards, or stay within a mean, stay flat for me to be improving. For example, if I'm measuring the cost of delivering a particular service, say cost of cleaning per square meter, should this cost that I'm recording every week be increasing as an improvement or decreasing as an improvement? You can easily agree, right? If the cost is decreasing and I'm still maintaining the same level of service, then my quality is what? Improving, right? So every time I record my cost per square meter of cleaning, I am recording it because I want to be able to trend and see whether I'm improving. In this particular case, improvement is for that cost to keep going down. If I'm recording and counting how many times my customers commend me for a best practice, how many times they share with me their testimonials of how good my work has been, I'm recording that. Should that number be going up or be going down? If the commendation starts going down, it means I'm no longer improving. If it keeps going up, 2 recommendations last month, 4 this month, I must work harder to get 6 recommendations next month. That is improvement because I'm tracking it. What about rework? They call you back. Sorry, that plumbing work you did is leaking again. Do you even count it? Do you note it? Oh, there was a rework, plumbing issue. That electrical job you did, I think that place is beginning to feel hot again. Look at it, it's sparking or arcing or something's going wrong there. And you come, oh, sorry, there's something I didn't do right. Oh, the door handle, you fixed it. Oh, no, I should have put another bolt or nut or somewhere behind to lock it in properly. And you came to do it, and so on and so forth. Do you track? Do you measure? Because if you are not tracking and counting, you cannot talk about improvements. Should that particular rework complaints that come to you from the work you do, should that number be going up or should it be going down? So you see what we're talking about now. Quality may be subjective, perceptual, but you can measure using objective numbers. If you are in a job that does not require you to report on your performance, that job is destroying your career. The job is not helping your case at all. Many people do a job for months and years, and they cannot account for how those years passed by because they were not given any kind of report. There was no measurement to show what they were contributing to the system. Nothing. So if you even ask, what do you even do? You can't even answer because you're basically just running around without any tangible proof of contributing to the system. So when performance is measured, it means you're measuring for yourself. As you're measuring, you are trending, you will improve. But when that measurement is also reported so that a third party sees it and is able to see how you're making progress, your rate of improvement will accelerate. In summary, improvement is most likely to happen in an environment that promotes customer focus, clear goals, accountability, scorekeeping, frequent feedback, recognition of personal achievements, and celebration of victories. Measure, measure, measure. What do we measure? It's where we're entering now. But first, let's think about the things that can affect our service quality. There are external factors and there are internal factors that can affect your service quality. The external factors are, in most cases, beyond your control. You are only trying to adapt. You're trying to make the best use of these external factors. But for the internal factors, you have a lot of influence in this area. You can have good relationship with your workers. You can develop your schedules. You could train your workers. You could work on getting staff of certain age grades during your hiring process and so on and so forth, as well as optimizing your maintenance to manage the age and condition of your facility so that you have less deterioration and less breakdown. But the frontline team that you have in place are those that help sell you as a high quality facility manager. So here are some guiding principles on how to achieve the journey of quality improvement with your FM team. 1, treat your employees as they will want to be treated. This is the platinum rule. The golden rule used to say, treat others as you will want to be treated. What does this mean? Connect and communicate. Learn what works and what doesn't work from your team members. Don't impose. Let them feel a sense of value. They belong to a team. They are providing a solution that is needed. Treat them with respect and courtesy. Give them praise. Give them feedback, even criticism that are productive and positive. It helps to reinforce positive changes. Learn to listen to your staff. Let their feedback mean something to you. It doesn't mean you have to take everything they say, but you must hear them out and the reasons they are giving those feedback. And you must be willing to do an analysis on those feedback and share your analysis with them so that they understand your position on things, because that's when they will have it as their own. They will feel personally committed. Give them the tools they need to do the job. Give them a living wage. I've had, feedback from several FM departments about this issue of living wage. The economy is so bad and we have the poorest paid workers in our industry. In fact, facility management and hospitality host the poorest paid workers of almost all work categories or professions. Scavengers and garbage collectors, they earn a lot more than the people at the shop floor in the facility management industry. But that, again, is a function of the value we have made them to give. Some people are in jobs where they are given very little value, and they expect a living wage. How much do you pay someone who comes to work at 7, finishes cleaning by 8, and sits around the office till 4? how much value is that person's work to the organization? So that by 8 o'clock, the work is done. It's 1 hour job that was done. Instead of letting that person go and find another job and make value for himself, the person sits around gisting and running errands all day long. And then we say we need to pay them a lot more. Sometimes we are the ones not planning the jobs well to give the proper value. Somebody's in the reception and the person basically just sits there, plays with his or her phone from morning till night, probably receive a few calls, say hello once in a while, and that's all the job the person does. Whereas that same person can be doing some report gathering, analysis of input from different field team members, coordinating help desk, and so on from that reception desk. So think about how you package jobs for fair living wage. And think about giving your team members a sense of direction. If I'm in this position now, I am going to grow to this position and that position, within this kind of time frame. I need to learn this and learn that so that I can become this and that. A sense of direction. It keeps them motivated. If you do any of these or some of these principles we just shared with you, you will have a more engaged workforce. You'll get more feedback from them. If you shut them up once, they will shut up forever. If you hear them all the time, they will put their brain to work for you. There'll be less turnover, fewer interpersonal conflicts within themselves, a happier workforce, less accidents, more promotions and employees wanting to learn new skills. They will basically, beg for more opportunity to do harder things because they see it as an opportunity to grow. So we talked about the things to measure. I've given you most of these examples. Number of rework, number of complaints, increase number of commendations, improvement efficiency, processes you put in place, initiatives introduced, mean time between failure for your equipment. Just a few. You can go on with this list and get up to 20 or 30. By the way, most people that employ facility managers into their demand organizations don't know how to develop reports for you. A manufacturing plant that employs an FM knows all about reporting for the production, quantity of goods that go in, quantity of output that comes out, all of the step-by-step quality issues that they need to measure. But for the FM, they don't seem to know, how to set a reporting template for you. So you need to find your own way of showing a report that adds value to the customer, and then they will appreciate it. If you ask a bank MD, for example, he's probably concerned that you are drinking the diesel. So he tends to submit his diesel log every day. I need to see how you are using this diesel. How come diesel, we are using 4,000 liters in 3 days, right? He will now want to know hour by hour logging of diesel use. And that's the report that matters to him because it chokes him at that point. But that's not the important report. He's just doing that as a reactive approach to get a control over something that affects him on the surface, a symptom. The real reports about how you support the business, how you support the banking operations, you need to come up with that report that aligns with the strategy of the organization. So measurement tools like cost per square foot, cost per labor hour, supply cost per square foot. Many of you are using diesel. How many kilowatts do you get per hour? You use electricity. How many, what's the cost per kilowatt hour, and so on and so forth. These are metrics that you must have a way of analyzing and documenting and trending and tracking as you go in managing facilities. All right, so we talked about service level agreements. If you want to define what the customer wants, you use specifications. Specifications describes the level of service. And some of the metrics for describing level of service we've talked about. That document where you put all of these specifications, scope of work in an agreement form is what we call the service level agreement. It's a fiscal documents. Well, of course, electronic, but the whole idea is the relationship between two parties, service provider and service user, is established inside a service level agreement. Now, the scope and specification of work required of you, the service provider, and in many cases, what you would transfer this to the service, the vendor who is going to provide the service to you. So see the way the relationship works. The users on one end, you in the middle, the vendors and the artisans on the other, right? Before you get to start developing service level agreement with vendors and artisans, you have to first have a service level agreement with your users. It is based on that service level agreement that ties into organizational objectives, mission, vision, part of what we looked at in the strategic facility planning class, that you used to translate, interpret, and create a service level agreement with your contractors. So contractors are not coming in with their own mindset or with a mindset that you give them to come and deliver the service that does not tally or align with the expectation of the end users. Mind you, we said you have the opportunity to control the expectation of the end user as well as the final outcome you give to them. Something you give to them must compare to the expectation that you managed at the beginning. And the service level could be prescriptive, performance-based, or output-based. In fact, apart from prescriptive, we will call the input-based, performance and output-based are almost the same thing, in the sense that you are looking at the outcome from the service. I won't tell you what and how to clean in performance or output-based. I will tell you what I expect from it. No dust, no stain, no smudges. I can tell you all of that. How you do the cleaning is your business. But if I'm doing prescriptive, which we also call input-based, I would tell you to use a certain chemical, a certain napkin, a certain scrubbing pattern, and do a certain frequency of certain activities. Now, I'm using that to tell you what I expect you to do in a prescriptive fashion. Both of them are correct, depending on what works for you as an organization. Some organizations will prefer the prescriptive approach to service levels, so will prefer the output-based approach to service levels. In either case, if you use performance metrics from what we have discussed to measure the success of prescriptive or output-based, you will get a better result, okay? But if you really want to focus on just the result, the outcome, then you're better off with the output-based service level agreements, where you no longer look at what inputs goes into it, you're looking only at the outputs. Quality improvement requires that you look out, find out if what I am trying to achieve, now that I understand my ideal quality for my customer, if I want to achieve it, is there someone else, an organization or team, that has achieved this level of quality before? If there are, I might want to look at and ask, what did they achieve compared to what I am trying to achieve, compared to what I'm currently achieving? What processes do they have in place? How can I copy those processes and apply them so that I can move up my service quality? That's basically the concept of benchmarking. In benchmarking, you first identify your key performance indicator. What's your goal? What's your target? You find a best-in-class performance organization who's achieving what you want to achieve, and then you compare with your own performance. It involves exchanging of information, sharing of information to know how you are doing compared to how the next person is doing. It is that data that you can feed into your improvement process. Improvement cannot happen without training. If you're doing something the same way from year to year, you're not training or learning new ways of doing it better, you cannot claim quality improvement. So training is key to quality improvement. And then we talked about measure, measure, measure. This is a very critical aspect of quality improvements. Being able to use statistical tools to measure. Somebody calls. I have this problem. Can you please take care of it? Oh, yes, I can. You send somebody to go and fix it. If that person calls again tomorrow for the same problem, we didn't even first know that that was the same problem you called for yesterday. Is there a login you have in place? You have a system for tracking the various customers, the various type of complaints they're having, and the times in which those complaints hit, for example. Because if you can create a pattern around the data you're generating from this information, you'll be able to ask yourself, wait a minute, it looks like I've not solved this problem well. The approach I'm giving is not the best approach. That's why it keeps recurring. If you're not having data, you won't even know that it's recurring. I've managed very large facilities before where we take light bulbs and light tubes, for example. We buy them in cartons and we just keep changing, anytime, a light goes out, we just go and change the fitting or change the light bulb, and we just keep changing. If you're not keeping tab of where the light was changed, the date it was changed, how long it worked before it required another change, for example, you probably will just be wasting light bulbs, not knowing that the circuit for a certain set of lights is problematic or have a problem. You keep changing light bulbs because the circuits keep blowing up the light bulbs. But because you're just changing light bulbs across the facility, you don't know where your real problems are. So when an FM says we need to buy 5 cartons of 100 light tubes, that's 500 light tubes. For how long will this number of light tubes typically stay in store before it's run out? If that is happening in 2 months or 3 months or maybe 1 month, and all the light tubes you have in that facility are just 1,000 in different locations, and you are replacing 500 of them every month, that should tell you something, isn't it? Of course, it will, if you are keeping tab of how the light bulbs are being fixed, where they are being fixed, when they are being fixed, and how long between one fix and the next fix for each light fitting. To do this, you need certain statistical tools. If you're having issues from several types of work, carpentry, electrical, plumbing, and so on and so forth in your facility, and those issues are random from different customers, different aspects of your facilities, you may just imagine or think that they are random and keep attending to them reactively. But if you have a tracking mechanism, if you have a system of noting times, customers, locations, types of work, and so on and so forth, you may end up finding out there are certain patterns. Those patterns will result in root cause analysis, will result in better solutions, will reduce the complaints and the issues you are dealing with, and end up giving you a higher quality at the end of the day. So we talk about quality improvement tools like root cause analysis, Pareto chart, check sheets, scalar diagram, control chart, histogram. These are some of the things that we just studied them in school, as mathematics or statistics students, or general studies in our first year, for example. But they can be applied because facility management, quality improvement is heavy on data. You must have the right data, and you must have the right analysis of those data to be able to move from where you are. In fact, without those data, you don't even know how well you are behaving or how well you are doing. You can't be telling anybody you are improving or doing well when you don't have the right data analyzed with the right statistical tools. So you can use something like frequency charts, for example, to determine how often certain things happen, right? So complaints, they come in and you just keep dealing with them. But when do you have the most complaints, for example? If a staff wants to go off on Saturday, is it going to be easy for you to allow or permit that you can go off? Of course, if you're not conscious of the data of how much work, how your work, peaks and falls from time to time, from day to day, you probably can say, oh yeah, you can go, don't worry, we'll get by. Only for the staff to be off and be like, oh my goodness, this is going to be terrible. There's usually this peak in demand at so and so time. Or maybe it's not really a peak in general demand. It's just a peak in one particular service where that staff is good at. But you're not conscious of it because you're not having data. Tracking, for example, the times, the types, the days for different kind of defects that you get complaints about. The moment you start using, look, think about it. This is a check sheet. It's a tallying document. Somebody comes in, yes, John, go and fix it. But then you tally it. This is 9 a.m. on Monday, and this is a plumbing defect coming from wing B, right? Yes, you tally it. What kind of issue? You record it. By 10 o'clock, another thing comes up. By 11, something else comes up, and you are tallying it. And you tally it from week to week to week to week. It gets to a point where you can now say, you know what? I want our vendor who provides extra hands or extra services in this area, who is supposed to be on call, to be on site on a particular day. Because we've tracked and trended, and we know that this kind of season time day is when we have such requirements. So all of those complaints that you keep complaining about, how you're overwhelmed, you don't have enough hands, and blah blah blah, you can scientifically manage your way around it. Even your resource pool, your workload, just by having data on how things are happening to you. Root cause analysis. If something happens once and happens again the same way, and happens again the same way, and you just keep resolving that incidents as they occur, you're not learning from it. What the root cause analysis help you do is ask, why did it happen? And ask, why did that happen? And why did this happen, right? To the point where you have asked why to the 4th or 5th level. The whole idea of a root cause analysis is, if I fix the issues at the bottom, the issues at the top are less likely to occur. And then I have a process flow diagram that I have to standardize my work. I have Pareto charts that helps me quantify the impact of responding to certain categories of work because of the volume or criticality of that particular category. I have a fishbone diagram. It's more like another form of root cause called cause and effects, which I can use to analyze various reasons as they interconnect to create a big problem. So I can decouple the problem and find solutions. And then scatter diagram will help me to find correlation. I'm tracking, for example, when I get complaints about cleaning, come and clean. This place is dirty. This place is dirty. I keep tracking those number of complaints. If I'm also tracking rainy days, for example, versus sunny days, wet versus dry, I might be able to form a correlation to know that on rainy, wet days, there will be more complaints about, mud and stains in certain spaces that requires more attention. So if I can create such correlation, what do I do? Once I check the weather reports and it says tomorrow is going to be very wet, I tell cleaners, okay, you know what? Instead of one person staying back after the morning cleaning to clean toilets, I want 3 of you to stay back tomorrow. What am I trying to do? I'm planning to respond to a potential rise in cleaning requirements because it has been predicted that it's going to rain. I have created the correlation because of the data I have done. And then you have this data analysis tool called control charts. You're trying to monitor a certain trend, a certain measurement. It has to stay within an upper and lower specification limits. Take the temperature of a generator, for example. It shouldn't be going perpetually up. It shouldn't be going perpetually down, or else something is wrong. There's a range, an optimal range. Just the way a doctor would check your blood pressure and say it is within the range. Do a blood test and say it is within this range or that range. That's what a control chart does. You keep recording and recording, and when it is trending out of the range of the mean, you take action to fix. So those are just some examples of how you can use statistical tools to gather data, analyze data, trend, track, and do course correction. I'm going to look at key performance indicators. We say before you can benchmark, you have to have a certain goal or target you are working towards. Every organization have their strategic goals, strategic objectives. You as facility managers provide services, solutions to enable the organization meet with its strategic goal. Key performance indicators are the tools for measuring the impact of your services on the organization's strategic goals. So in essence, they measure criticality, they measure impact, they measure relevance of the services that we provide to the organization's goal. Key performance indicators are very different from service levels that we discussed earlier. Service levels measure and describe how well we are performing a specific service. So service level for cleaning will track things like no dirt, no stains, no debris, the place is clean, and so on and so forth. But key performance indicator for cleaning will track things like aesthetic appeal. How do people feel when they look at this environment? Do they give us a high rating as a corporate environment that is high quality? Wellness, sick days of people. We can track how many times people get infected from these spaces because that affects productivity. If you were to put it together, you would say KPIs measure why we do the things we do. SLAs measure how we do the things we do. If you do it very, very well, your SLA is high. If the impact from what you do is meeting the reason why the organization has appointed you to do it, your KPI is high. So SLAs can help us achieve KPIs. Some key performance indicators, profitability. So if you are tracking your costs, for example, my costs per liter of water I produce, my costs per cleaning square meter, my costs per material supply, my costs for this and costs for that. If those costs are going down, I'm contributing to profitability of the organization. So by measuring my costs and trending and tracking to see that they are being reduced, I'm improving profitability of my organization. So just taking profitability alone, I can have a KPI for almost all my services that tracks my costs and translates into a key performance indicator for my organization. Employee recruitment effectiveness, employee absenteeism, turnover, workplace productivity, sustainability performance, customer retention, customer satisfaction. These are all high-level goals and objectives that the organization wants to achieve that I can contribute with the service I deliver as an FM. So it's possible to have the same set of KPIs for all FM services. So I end with this slide, very important, kind of a summary, puts everything in context that we have been talking about. Toyota's 14 quality management principles. This is an adaptation for the service industry. This is how you can practicalize in a nutshell all that we've been talking about as a way of improving service quality. Number one, base your management decisions on the long-term philosophy, even at the expense of short-term financial goals. Sometimes you do things using shortcuts. Think about long-term impact. Number two, create continuous process flow to bring problems to the surface. Avoid disjointed activities. This means, as much as possible, document your processes. All your key activities. How do we currently do them? Step one, we do this. Step two, we do that. Step three, we do this. By listing that down, you can look at the process and say, why are we having this step? Is this step necessary? Is this not an overkill? Is there nothing missing that's making us ineffective in the way we deliver this activity? Number three, use pull systems to avoid overproduction. This simply means deliver to meet customer requirements. So in essence, what this means is don't go about trying to design your FM service without first spending enough time understanding your customer, what they are trying to achieve in the space, what kind of service will help them excel, so you can define the right solutions to meet their needs. Number four, level out workload, which means you maintain a balanced workload across resource pool. Don't have Mr. Lagbaja that is overworking and Ms. Whoever that is not doing much in the same team. Leveling out workload can be achieved through one, cross-training. Everybody should learn what the next person can do. Everybody should be able to do what the next person is able to do. You have to kill that mindset of specialization among your work teams. Your facility management technicians should not be specialist electrician, specialist plumber, specialist carpenter. Your building maintenance technician should all learn each other's work and be able to do it. Only licensed professions where you need to have a license to be able to play in that profession require such level of specialization. What we have done in the built environment is really terrible. You start shouting, I need more plumbers, because there's more plumbing problem. And then the electricians you have are sitting down. They don't even know where the valves are to isolate a leakage. They don't know how to join a pipe. They can't replace a faucet because you didn't teach them. The only way to balance workload, level it out, is to cross-train and tax them out evenly. Build a culture of stopping to fix problems to get quality right the first time. Don't wait until things break down before you know it was going to break down. When it is tending towards breaking down, you should know, stop, fix. Standardized tasks are the foundation for continuous improvement and employee empowerment. Use visual controls so no problems are hidden. This is effective reporting to flag out of control situations. You must have an effective reporting mechanism. Use only reliable, thoroughly tested technology and supply chain partners that serve your people well, your people and processes. What it simply means is the team members you employ, contractors and vendors you put in your organization, they must connect with your organization. You can't bring people who don't understand what you are trying to achieve to be working for you to achieve it for your customers. Grow leaders who thoroughly understand the work, live the philosophy, and teach it to others. Nobody is qualified for promotion when he's still the only one that can do what he can do. If you can't teach it to others, if he's still a secret, if he's still indispensable, leave him there until you can fire him. Because many other things in these principles will not be implemented if you still have people who are knowledge warehouses who won't share. To become a foreman, for example, you must understand a bit of all the other skills in the built environment to become a foreman. That's the only way you can supervise all of them. Develop exceptional people and teams who follow your company's philosophy. Respect your extended network of partners and suppliers by challenging them to improve. Go and see for yourself to thoroughly understand the situation. You can't expect what you don't inspect in facility management. If you cannot physically go with technology. There are videos you have to see before you can confirm that it's been done. You have to see to be able to understand and validate any situation. Make decisions slowly by consensus, thoroughly understanding all options. Implement decisions rapidly, which means spend more time planning. And as soon as you have clarity from your plan, act swiftly. Become a learning organization through relentless reflection and continuous improvement. The Japanese call this Hansei and Kaizen, which means continuously learn. Even when you think something is working well for you, learn it again. Learn new ways of doing it better and always improve. That's our lesson for today. Let's hear your questions. Alawi, your hand is up. Please go ahead. Alawi, you're muted. You can go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, thank you very much. I've learned so much from tonight's quality management. Yeah. But there are situations where the customers are the one that tells you, okay, this is what I want. But as a facility manager, you know that this is actually the standard. That is the regulatory standard you don't want to go below. But if you drag it too much with them, they might decide to give the job to somebody else. And eventually they will get it done by somebody else. So what do you do in that situation?
Very good question, Olaoye. First, truly understand the regulatory standard.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we assume what the regulatory standard is. Truly understand it and make every effort to show or demonstrate this standard to the customer to say it's against the law to operate below this level by actually showing. I've seen situations where facility managers did not understand fire standards and were putting up, funny arguments on site.
Yeah.
In one case, the FM did not understand the rules that govern the management of swamps and sewages, sewage installations. And we're having ignorant arguments until the customer was the one that now came to say, this is what the standard is. So that's the first thing I will tell you. Know what the standards, regulatory standards are by studying those regulatory agencies, the laws that establish them and empowers them to regulate different aspects of the built environment. You need to understand that you can download them online. For example, Lagos Building Material Standards Agency, the Material Testing Agency, the Town Planning Agency, there are so many, about 13 of them that regulates the built environment. Download the building code. We have another class on the building code. But before then, download the building code from the internet and read building standards, maintenance standards from the building code. So you know exactly what you're talking about. So you can actually refer your customers to these. Okay, so that's the first thing I would say. Secondly, it is now an integrity issue. When both you and the customer knows what the regulatory standard is, and the customer is asking you to go below, decide at that point that you want to be professional. Politely decline to break the law. Okay. I know that this is a tough sell for many people when we are dealing with survivors and contracts that are paying very little with very little margins and probably not much in terms of business. So our survivor may be hinged on a particular contract where the customer is trying to make us break the law. My advice still is what I would do. I'll walk away from a dirty situation. Okay?
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Next question. How many of us have started attempting the assessment for this class? Abdul, let's hear from you. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you for the class. It's so enlightening and eye-opening in so many areas that so much we take for granted, and we think we are working, but there are so much lapses that we need to actually cover and plan for, actually need to cover grounds. My question is, how can we come up with some metrics like design? If you come up with designs or statistical data, can you help us to fine-tune it in order to meet that particular demand? Okay.
Sure, I'll be happy to. So, for example, my previous classes, I have shared a simple reporting tool I use in weekly reports and monthly reports, and I tell you, go and improve on it, and then, bring it back, for me to see how you've adapted it. Sometimes the main reason why I stopped giving students templates was that I found that the students were too lazy to even adapt even the slightest thing as editing my company name out of a template, right? So it was that bad, So I started teaching principle based, learn it and create your own templates. But in this last class, the class before, I shared some templates, and I hope you guys will, when you get it, make a good use of it by not just taking it hook, line, and sinker, but looking at your organization and asking yourself, how can I adapt this to the needs of my organization? How can it help me measure the things that will add value to my organization? Okay, so I'm going to do that. So if you have, and then some other students just basically dumped what they were using that was working for them and replaced it with what I gave them. And I said, no, that's very bad, right? It's not a good practice. What you have that was working for you might need a little bit of a tweak, right? And if you think that tweak is not in line with what I'm trying to share with you, let me see what you have and why you had it in place, over the years you've been using it there. And then we might be able to tweak it together instead of just dumping it and trying to replace it, because that can lead to resistance from your customers or from your management, okay? Aminat.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Paul. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. I have a question. In a situation where a client wants you to disregard standards and codes, building codes in constructing their building, because I have a scenario in my estate here, just the plot next to ours here. The person completely ignored all building codes and regulations. And as a town planner, I felt slighted because it goes beyond all what I was taught in school. Building, you are not leaving any space for parking.
No setbacks, yeah.
No setbacks at all. Using all the portion of land. Is what's his name? Is the upper floor is literally on our cantilever.
Yes, cantilevered out.
On both ends. And the front space that he left again, it's not even enough, and you are building a semi-detached. Or semi-detached for that matter. No parking, no consideration of your neighbors, no consideration of your tenants. So what can someone do in such a way where the client disregards all?
First, if the client wants you to be the contractor or to build that for him, politely explain, demonstrate why that's a contravention, and if he's still insistent, decline the job. That's the difference between a professional and a quack. Let's face it, quacks are hungry, desperate to take whatever comes their way, and ready to sell their conscience, their professional standards, just to get a meal on the table. Professionals will not, because they know what they are worth. Now, in the case that it is not your business per se, because it's doing its own thing, it's gotten its own approval and whatever, but you feel like a concerned neighbor and you think this is a major violation, then blow the whistle. Every agency of government has a whistle line where you can drop an anonymous hint, somewhere online, a random phone call to say so and so place, so and so thing is happening. You may want to come and pay attention to it. I'm not too sure what the violations are, but this construction doesn't seem to look right. They are very happy, especially in our system where every contravention is a benefit to the enforcer, right? So, and they don't have the kind of workforce to monitor every part of the state. I mean, all agencies should be having some 40, 50,000 staff each if they were to monitor every part of the state, considering the number of enormous construction going on across the state. So they operate on a scapegoat approach where they single out one area, walk in any random direction, pick one person and use him as scapegoat so that others who hear knows that if they catch you, your face will be worse than that, right? So, and then they also take some of those random, whistles they hear from, concerned citizens. So please do your bits to find the right.
We have actually tried to. We invited the LAPCA agent. And the person constructing was present, but he was busy begging. He knows what he has done.
Sure.
Right, but was begging.
Yeah, so,
I know. I was trying to instigate my dad to sue him for damaging.
Yeah.
My dad kept, as he started it, he kept saying he has faced his property. Because the tenants are usually the ones affected.
Yes.
But they are on the tenant's side.
Tenants suffer, neighbors suffer.
We were feeling what they are feeling. Even
when
passing through every day like an eyesore.
Can imagine. I can imagine.
I felt insulted. I can never agree with it, no matter what.
So you see some of the things that are external that you don't have control over. You can't enforce that quality. It's external. You can't do anything about it. The little you can do, you've done. You've called the right authorities, and you expect them to do the right thing. Okay. You went off.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for the presentation. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, your audio is good.
Okay, I just want to, you mentioned something about service level agreements and KPIs, key performance indicators. Service level agreement. I don't know if I got it correctly. You said, it says service level agreement are how well we measure our delivery of service, and key performance indicators are how people feel they're delivering, their perception of our service delivery.
Both of them are measures using metrics. Service level agreement is a measure of how well we are delivering the service. Whereas key performance indicator is a measure of the relevance of the service itself to the organization's goals. That's why we say KPIs answers why we are doing what we do, whereas SLAs answers how we are doing what we do.
Okay. And I have a part 2 to the question. Where I work in an integrator setting. So I'm in between the customer and subcontractors. Because my mind throughout this lecture, my mind was how can I be measuring performance improvement in quality. So an interesting part of this lecture was when you talk about the measuring tools. So my mind is just racing what measuring tool I can use, because we don't do the work directly. So the how, that service level agreement, we are just here to enforce that service level agreement between the customer and the subcontractor. I don't know if I don't know how to, when I'm thinking of measuring tools, I can't place my mind on the service level agreement level. But maybe key performance indicators, those are things that customers can look to the integrator like me and know that I'm improving and I'm delivering quality.
Okay. So you can give me. So the contracts that a demand organization have with the service providers, the vendors, already includes service level agreements that you must enforce. For some of those contracts, they have input specifications. A contractor must bring so number of workers, must do so and so inspections, must do so and so task, and so on and so forth, right? And then for some of them are output specifications. The air conditioning system must not have up to 2% downtime, right? It must be up minimum 98%, isn't it? And so on and so forth. They have different specifications they've already built in there. You, the integrator, you are trying to ensure that the service provider or the vendors meet the minimum service level expectations. In meeting those service level expectations, you are trying to prevent additional costs from the clients, from the demand organization. Every additional cost affects their profitability, isn't it? You are tracking that. That's a key performance indicator. If I keep the cost low for them, if I help them to avoid variations that leads to additional costs, I should track that and say, I saved you so and so amounts of variations that could have happened because I applied processes and systems to ensure that those problems don't throw themselves up, right? You could track the complaints coming from the users of the demand organization. If the complaints are getting higher and higher, it automatically means that productivity is dwindling. So even though they are spending so much money, contractor may even be meeting his SLA, right? But if complaints are increasing, productivity is dwindling. People are not actually giving in their best or delivering as much as they can because they're having inconveniences around them. So if I take a baseline number of complaints and I start tracking how that number of complaints is reducing over time, that's a key performance indicator for me as an integrator, right? So there are so many things that I can take. For example, if I have data on illnesses of workers of the demand organization, people that don't come to work because they were ill, how can those illnesses be linked to their well-being in the workplace? Because of course we spend more time at work, right? So we can easily link our illnesses with our work, with our workspaces. I can use that data to start working with the cleaning crews to ensure there is improved hygiene, because the place can look clean and people will still be falling sick because hygiene is not the same thing as, physical debris removal, right? So I could do more training. I could skill their workers more to make them more effective at making sure the place is more hygienic. And then I start tracking how that affects absenteeism due to illness and the rest. So there are so many things I can do for KPIs that can add value, that defines what value the service providers are giving to the client really is to the high level strategic objective or goals. And that's why if you look into what they are rating you by, they are rating you on the failure of those service providers, right? So if those service providers fail and we don't get value for what we are paying them, we'll rate you down, isn't it? So that's the big challenge with being an integrator. So there are so many ways you can look at it. Take the contract, enforce the SLAs in those contracts, and then from there draw additional KPI insights. Because at this point you are focusing on the client, you're focusing on the organization, you're focusing on its people, right? And all that you are doing is to give them the best results and output at the end of the day. Whatever you measure in that regard will be relevant. Those are KPIs.
Thank you, sir.
I worked in an organization where they do profit and loss on a monthly basis. So if an invoice is not turned in before a certain date or not accrued for in the accounting system, a false profitability report will be generated globally, right? And it was so important to the organization to know whether what they are declaring as profit this month is really profit or they are going to cough it out next month, right? So that for them was a KPI. It doesn't matter how well you clean. If your invoice is not coming on time or we commit you to a service and you do not accrue for it, we may not be able to pay you again. You understand? So something as simple as that can be more important than even the level of cleaning or the level of that service that was delivered for them. Because that's at the highest level of the decision, it's important that you can account purely and accurately for what's done. So we must understand our clients to the point where we know what's important to them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bamidele. Bamidele, go ahead. It's your turn. Hello, Bamidele.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I really want to appreciate your lectures. I really enjoyed it, and I had more knowledge on quality management. But my major challenge is that, you know, where I worked is a facility and we manage a resident. And sometimes we offer services and we try to measure our performance and the quality of the service we render to them. But it's so challenging that, especially the residents, whereby they paid so much for service charge and so many things, and they are expecting you to provide them a good service. But out of then let me just make a situation of let me make a case of maybe we have about 9 tenants, but only one particular of our quality of service being rendered to him, that we are not effective, we are not efficient enough. Anything we do, he always criticizes. He talks about the water, he complained of the water, he complained of the electricity, he complained of everything regarding the apartment he's staying. And he's a new resident, and he's making our efforts to be not to be effective and efficient enough. I do not know how we can manage such a customer or a tenant in this situation, whereby he complains of every services we render to him is not satisfied of all the service we do render to him. And it's a big challenge on our part on how we can how to sustain this person in that particular building.
You will need to review the entire content of this class again, watch the video again, and start from the scratch. You start from the scratch. First, you need to carefully itemize the services you are delivering. Know what services that the customers require. Take each service, use metrics, measurements to specify the ranges you will provide for each of them. After you have specified those services, get this client and every other client to say, if you can deliver to this, we'll be happy. Sign the agreement with them that specifies what they ask you for, what you provide to them that they are happy to receive and pay for. And then begin to track how you are performing regarding those specifications. Most management service agreements that are in the industry today are all crap. Somebody writes 15 pages of legalistic stuff and makes one page that says we'll provide cleaning services, one line. We'll provide water supply, one line. We'll provide electrical maintenance, one line. You have said nothing. So when you are not delivering that water and the person says, the water is coming too cold or too hot or too murky, or it's not clean, it's not this, it's not that. You start arguing, but this is the kind of water available in this area now. There's nothing we can do about it. Who told you? You ought to have specified to him, the water we'll provide to you will meet so and so requirements. So much calcium deposit, so much iron content, so much in coloration, so much in filtration level, and will be available in such volume and times. That's what it means to provide water supply. Not just one line will provide you water supply, and then you start complaining that the guy is not accepting the service you are delivering because you've not told him anything. He cannot set his expectation at any level because you did not do the basic thing of quality is what? The first part, confirm customer expectation, isn't it? Using metrics and standards defined by who? The customer. That's quality 101, first line of instruction. That's why you start from scratch. And then you will define the entire service level again, have an agreement, it becomes a tool that you use to manage the customer's expectation. It shouldn't demand for what he has not signed as he would accept from you, right? And it becomes a tool for managing your own performance, because you have to keep measuring and comparing what you are doing against what you signed up with him. I have had issues with estate managers. In fact, in one case, it was really bad. I had to move out of that estate because it wasn't funny. As an expert, I saw an agreement that was 30-something pages. In all that 30-something pages, there was no detail as to what the FM was going to deliver. No detail, no breaking down, no measurement, no metrics, nothing to the blank document, as far as I was concerned. It contains so many rules. Users cannot invite visitors at this time. Residents cannot do this. So many rules and rules and rules and rules that fill up the whole book. And then it includes, you must pay your money at so and so time. If you didn't pay it, interest. If you know, so many things were loaded in there. But there was really nothing that you can use to hold the FM down to say, if I pay you this 1 million, this is what I expect from you. Nothing. So when we work as consultants to companies who are trying to design and develop, we tell them, look, our work is premium. We will do a very detailed specification for you. But what it does is it makes the customer happy to pay you whatever you are charging. But it binds you to quality delivery. Because the day you don't deliver to the quality, the customer has a document with which is going to come, look at your line 12. It says you are going to provide blah, 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 blah. So and so, I've done my own check. You are not meeting that requirement. Before he even does his own check, you should have also done your own check and know you are not meeting the requirements and decide on how to compensate him for your failures. In this case, you probably don't even know where you are failing, because 9 out of 10 are saying you are okay. And that's a problem for you. All right, Jola, let's take the last question from you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir, for the lecture. Quite enlightening. So I want to ask, how do you, would I say, balance or manage the expectation of a customer who is requesting for a quality that his budget cannot cover? I don't know if I'm putting the question right.
Yes, you are.
Something
you are.
like
I understand
that.
it perfectly, yes.
How do you, yeah.
Okay, so customers are in their rights to expect the highest grade for the least amount. They're in their rights. If you heard the saying that you don't know what you can get away with until you try.
Yeah.
That's a typical customer story. Okay? They want to get away with anything, right? So they will try.
Okay.
Now, back to my last response. It is for you to clearly define in specification, line item by line item, what is possible. For example, somebody wants very high quality cleaning, right? That high quality cleaning requires me to have skilled, well-trained professional cleaners. Buy cleaning products from Reckitt, not from the roadside mix chemicals. Use essential oils, not inorganic materials for freshening their spaces. That's what they want, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is my job to define those things down and say, for this cleaning, for this type of work, my cleaning is 4,000 naira per square meter. But there is also another one, right, that requires deep cleaning twice in a year, that we use generic cleaning materials, that we use cleaners in minimum wage, right, that we use blah, blah, blah for 2,000 naira per square meter. So it is for me, the FM, to explain to the clients what the options are. For example, a cleaner can wear a rubber shoe, a foam shoe, right? That I can get for 2,000 Naira in the market. A cleaner can wear a perfect leather shoe that I can get for 40,000 Naira in the market. Even their uniforms, even their appearance, the level of skill and training they have, the materials they use to work can all be itemized so that the person who is seeking for that cleaning is a service he's looking for, right? But I give you the levels. This level is this price, this level is this price, this level is this price. Choose your level.
Okay, so not like options.
Exactly. If you don't provide options, they will pay you the least and start assuming the best.
Okay.
So it's a lot of front-end work for us service providers, because it's a little bit tricky describing and specifying service. It takes effort, a lot of research to for example, I can tell a customer, you know what, for this level 2 service, if you find a cobweb once in a while, it's not a problem. But that's for natural. This other service, even dust on the wall, you can take half of our money for the month for it. You understand? He knows that you can really weigh quality of service and you are committing yourself to provide whichever he chooses. Okay? I said Jola will be the last question, but I see another hand up. You're welcome. Okay, Raymond, let's hear from you. We've stretched our time by almost 20 minutes or more. All right,
thank you.
Go on.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Paul. This is a seriously eye-opener in most of the things. Mostly to me, I've been doing in the office. And in fact, when I see this and I say, this lecture is too much, very loaded. So thank you so much for this. My question goes like this. I have a plumber before my supervisor that eventually moved to another department, and I moved into the facility fully handling it. Is the plumber always coming to complain to me that he has an agreement with my former supervisor? Mm-hmm. That agreement is that every morning he comes into the office and check if everything is functioning very well. Mm-hmm. Once everything is working well, he goes away, and that agreement he has. In fact, he pays him every year. He has an agreement that from January to December, he pays him. So when I came and I discovered that most of the mornings, everything functioning, he's not doing it. So I started asking him, can we be paying you for something you are not doing? So from there, I started reducing those things. But since that thing started happening, after a while, you discover that you will come in the morning. In fact, sometimes I'll be on third mainland, they will call me, look, the water is not anywhere, there's no water. And I'll call this guy. Instead of coming in the morning, you start giving an excuse. You will arrive around 10. Around 10, by then, a lot of things. So I need to get another person. Mm-hmm. So that was the problem. And when I tried to stop that, he started reporting me to everybody. I told him, I'm not going to get into that kind of agreement with you, that we can't be paying for something you are not doing. More or less, the amount the guy was always asking, most of the time he doesn't do that job. Most of the things he put in the list, he doesn't do it. So I have to scrap that. And that's one. And the problem is that he keep on reporting me to everybody.
Can I attend to that first one before you enter the second one?
Okay.
You need to go and apologize to that guy. The guy was providing you quality assurance. And that is what your customers need. Fixing things that break is not what your customers need. Responding to complaints is not what your customers need. Your customers need to see that, and this is different between KPIs and SLAs. Your customers need to see that there's no leakage, there's always water. That's what they need. That's what you need to pay for. So if he's able to deliver no complaint, no rework, no issues, pay him whatever he charges. And that's how I'm trying to train you here. Learn to know what is value to your customers. Don't pay for work, pay for value.
Okay.
You heard the story about an engineer that was asked to come and fix a ship, and the ship engine will not work. Everybody has tried for months. It's faulty. The guy comes in, taps here and taps there, and they said, he says, pay me my $50,000. They said, no. How can you just work for less than 10 minutes and be asking me for $50,000? He says, the 10 minutes is just $1. That's the actual tapping that he tapped to make this your engine to come back on is $1. Knowing where to tap was $49,999. Because, everybody has tried. He's the one that has the knowledge. So what that guy has done is provide what your customers really want. No complaint, no issues with water, no leakage, no flooding, no destruction of their property. Everything is working fine. The moment you switch your mind away from the activity to the results, you would appreciate him better. Because what he was doing is output-based contracts.
Mm-hmm.
It was not on a specification to account for activities, all the inputs he puts into it. What he was being paid for was the results, the outputs, and that's more important to you. That's why I should apologize to him and get him back to continue where he stopped. Start paying him even more than he was being paid before.
We are still working. In fact, I still cherish him, but it's just that my supervisor is saying that we can't be paying for what is not.
No. You have to change that approach. Talk to your supervisor about what he's actually doing. What he is doing, what you see as what he's not doing is the problem.
Okay.
You are saying that he's not actively, mending things. So, and you are seeing that as what you are looking for. That's not what you are looking for. That he's not mending things and things are working is what you need. So what you can do for him is, I will pay you this amount, but make sure that I don't have water failure. Make sure I don't have leakage. Make sure I don't have this. You put all of those in a contract.
Exactly, sir.
He will use his own discretion to sort out those problems and give you the solutions you need. Just pay him as far as he's meeting those requirements. So create a contract, and then you can get back to where he was. Okay?
Okay, but is my supervisor is important? She is in Port Harcourt, but
yes,
disturbing me that they were paying the guy for work he's not doing. I said I'm the one that suffered everything which happens in Lagos. So I said I can't leave the guy. The only thing I would do, maybe for him to step up, is just get a second vendor to that effect.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry, sir. Okay. One other one is my electrician.
Yes.
Electrician. We allowed him to, most of the times we allow him to buy the materials. So we discovered that at a point, since nobody, initially we are not querying because we are just like you said, we are getting the service. So we are not querying most of the things he was doing. At a point, he discovered that every month he will increase his labor and increase the transportation and increase the price of the materials he's always using. So, and the thing will keep on, initially I was trying to caution him to be careful with this, because what is there is that at the end of the day, it's not me and you, it's the people in the finance. And just like not quite long, they started saying, this guy that his price is increasing like this, are you sure you don't have a share to give? And I keep on warning the guy, but at the point I have to step up. I started telling him, look, every material you need to buy that is above 5,000, you have to come, we negotiate, or we get the material for you. In the process of that, I think the price started coming down, and he too wasn't happy. So I think I'm trying to find a way of just make sure that I keep him. But although I've told him that if he doesn't cooperate, I have to get another vendor. So that's the only one that's filling his head for now.
You started doing your job finally. Can you allow me the one taking the rates? So you can simplify it this way. Create a rate schedule. All the materials that are used in your site for electrical, the cables, their various sizes, the fuses, the circuit breakers, create something like a rate card, right? Okay. So you negotiate all the line items well in advance of anything happening and sign it as an agreement with him. Right. Make sure that you have that agreement dated. Because in the past, we used to have that indefinite delivery quantity line items kind of schedule rates, 1 year valid. But now the best you can get is 6 months or 3 months validity. Once we agree on those rates, you sign up to it and you keep it. So when you say the circuit breaker is faulty and you say what size is 15 amps, for example, you know what 15 amps is on the rates you guys have agreed. Once you say approved, he will just bring an invoice, to cover the quantity that he has showed you he has replaced, and you will pay him based on the rates you've already pre-agreed. This whole idea of negotiating every quotation with a single vendor is actually criminal. The only time you can be doing all those negotiations every now and then is when you have multiple vendors who are bidding every time there is something to be done. Then you can now pick the lowest quotes and talk with the person to conclude. But if you have one vendor you have taken as a partner that you want to be using on a regular basis, please use a scheduler rate, okay?
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thanks. Thank you, everybody. That's all we can take for today. See you again on Friday. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Please don't forget to do your assessment to work on it, okay?
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, sir.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.